So I had a thought recently about what really makes a religion. Now, me being an American, where most people are Christian, I thought of Christianity, but this could apply to basically any religion. And the thought is that if you take away the stuff that isn't really part of the religion, what's left, and how many people would still be part of that religion? There's just a bunch of stuff surrounding the religion that isn't in the holy books at all, but it's stuff that sort of bolsters the religion, adds fluff to it, adds niceness to it, and a lot of it just isn't in there. And I'm wondering, if you took the religion straight up, would anyone actually do it? Or are they in it for, the sense of community, or this or that, or whatever else the religion sort of brings with it in our modern practice thereof? And a lot of the surrounding fluff to me seems to be almost like a marketing gimmick. I'll keep picking on Christianity through this video, but realize that, again, this could apply to any religion. But a lot of the stuff with Christianity, at least in my experience, seems to have parallels in the business world, where it's basically, intentional or not, it has the effect of sort of suckering you in with stuff that really doesn't relate to what they're peddling. Or really just sort of any appeal devices, like language appeal or architectural appeal or something that just sort of draws you in, but isn't exactly part of the thing that they're drawing you into. It's not part of the religion. The church doesn't demand that you do these things. So the first example I thought of was how Christianity likes to use old-timey English words like spake, shalt, thee, thine, thou, cometh, whence, blah 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 blah. And using all these words really just makes people who read them feel profound and like part of something big and ancient and contiguous. And you can really see this if you read the King James Version of the Bible and then the New Standard International whatever it is Bible. The new one, the International Bible, is a lot less captivating because it uses plain everyday English, and no one wants to hear that. That's boring. But, feeling this sort of profound sense when you use the old-timey English really sort of, I think, draws people in, and I think that's just sort of strange that you count that as part of the religion when it's clearly just a manipulative device. Intentional or not, it's there, and it seems to have that effect on people. It's also interesting to note that Jesus didn't speak like that, and we also don't speak like that, so it seems a little strange that they'd word the Bible like that at all, except that when they read it, it sounds a lot more interesting than what it's actually trying to say straight up. So that's the first example I have of a device that's unrelated to the religion, but it has the effect of bolstering it when applied to it, and there's really no reason to apply it to it other than, oh, it just makes it look better. And my second example, similar but not exactly the same, is the sort of Dickensian-style writing that you see at least in the King James Version of the Bible. And as an example of this, a friend on Facebook posted a Bible passage. She was a Christian, she's a Christian, and it was a little confusing to read. I wasn't quite sure what I was reading, so I asked her, what does this mean? She said, take a guess, so I said, okay, I think it means that the guy's saying, I hope you guys who he's talking to believe in God. She said, yeah, that was correct. And of course, I left it at that. I didn't want to be a jerk, but my follow-up question would be, okay, then why was it worded so confusingly? I mean, reading that Bible passage, I forget which one it was, sort of reminded me of how listening to Glenn Beck was. You sort of get the vague idea of what's going on, and it turns out to be a crazy simple idea, but it just sounds so much more substance. It sounds like there's more substance to it. It's more interesting. It's more something when you phrase it so poetically, and that's, I guess, why Dickens is so famous. But it's just that thing. It's just such a strange way of writing it to sort of impart importance to it that it really doesn't have if you just took it straight up. So the third thing is that the Bible, and probably other religions, but familiar with Christianity here, the Bible likes to take things that we already have words for and phrases for and give them new words, presumably for the same effect as, for example, Burger King, it's called a Whopper. McDonald's, a breakfast sandwich, is called a McGriddle, and all that kind of stuff. Because no one wants to go in and order, oh, I'd like the hamburger. You go in, it's like, oh, I've had a hamburger. I don't want a hamburger. I want something interesting. Ooh, a Whopper. I want a Whopper, yeah. And it's just sort of that naming gimmick where, they sort of draw you in and make them use their names for it. And it sounds like something that's not boring, like you've already known about for forever. And so, for example, they don't call it a bench, they call it a pew. It's not a bad thing you do, it's not a bad action, it's not a whatever you'd call it, it's a sin. And it's not, I think there was another, it's not a songbook, it's a hymnal. But let's use the example of a sin. Your vegan friend will tell you that eating meat is bad. Your Republican friend will tell you that taxing the rich is bad. Your homophobic friend will tell you that gay marriage is bad. But if you go into church, they'll tell you it's not bad, it's a sin. Ooh. And, you know, it's just sort of this thing where it's like, that just means bad action in your religious opinion. But they sort of give it that name, and whether intentional or not, it creates the same effect as calling your hamburger a Whopper or calling your breakfast sandwich a McGriddle. My next example is something that I made a video about forever ago, so I'll just bring it up again here, which is that Christianity, this is specifically Christianity, calls their God, God, capital G God, as if they have this monopoly on deities. And, you know, we've come to call a photocopy a Xerox, we've come to call a Kleenex, or sorry, a tissue a Kleenex, but those things actually really do have monopolies on it. Christianity seems to be just sort of declaring its monopoly on deities when, you know, you say, oh, do you believe in God? It's like, well, I assume you're Christian, but that could mean any of the gods out there, and it's just sort of saying, oh, but ours is the ultimate God, and sort of making you think that mentally when you hear God, capital G, is like, oh, the God, like as if this is the only real God, because everyone thinks their God is the only real God, but the Christianity has done, you know, what Xerox did through actually being a monopoly, is make their name the thing, and it just sort of bolsters the idea that there is only one God, it's the Christian God, when really there are a lot of other religions out there, and it's just another one of those things that makes it seem like Christianity is bigger than it is. Now, on the topic of enlarging things, something I've noticed, at least for Christianity, is they like to use capital letters in a lot of things. You know, his, him, the Son, the Father, you know, all the capital letters they put at the front of those. And, you know, obviously we don't write like that, so the only possible really reason you do that, or really the effect of that, is to make them sound more important than they are. You know, bold-face them, why don't you, kind of thing. It's just sort of bolsters the image, when really that's not part of the religion. It's just sort of a device that makes it look more important, that really can be taken out of the religion without changing the content of the religion itself. Another thing is the sense of community that people get from, you know, practicing the religion with other people in a church or a mosque or a temple or whatever. And, you know, people come together, they associate that happy feeling with the religion and with going to their church or mosque or synagogue, and then they sort of get this sense of community and compassion, which Christians call the Holy Ghost, which is readily explainable through the fact that humans are social animals. And I just can't help but wonder, if you take away that community and make people practice their religion by themselves, how many people are going to stay there? Because it's one of those big things. If you take out the Holy Ghost, basically, you know, people aren't going to like it. It's just going to be like, okay, now I have to do this, now I have to do that, can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And you don't get that sense of community, which really isn't sort of the main thing of the Bible, main thing of the religion. I mean, yeah, the Bible does talk about the Holy Ghost as, I'm not fully versed on that, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's sort of that sense of caring for each other. And I think that would go down a lot if you didn't interact with these people a lot in, you know, going to church every week or whatever. Another thing is the architecture and the sort of imposing nature of churches. Like, there was something about, it was a documentary about, what do you call them, cathedrals, and talking about the evolution of the design from, you know, just sort of dark, small rooms to big vaulted chambers with big windows, and people would remark something like, you could really feel the glory of God in this church. It's like, what are you talking about? They just changed the architecture. God's will does not change with the architecture. It's just your feeling of walking into a room, it's like, whoa, this is all one big structure? Holy crap. And it's that feeling. That's not even part of the religion. It just sort of, and they're attributing it to God. It's like, it's the grace of God. It's the architecture. It's like, you've never had that happen to you when you walk into a big building? It's like, whoa, this is a big building? And it's just that thing that sort of tries to draw people in when it's not really God. It's just the building. That's how you react to a huge thing like that. Along similar lines is the pipe organ. Again, traditionally a Christian thing, mostly familiar with Christianity here, and it's this sort of big imposing thing with a whoa, whoa, and you're like, whoa, you're sort of like taken aback, you're impressed by it, when nowhere in the Bible does God say, thou must have an organ or pipe organ kind of thing. It's just sort of like a gimmick. It draws you in with this sort of uplifting music, and it makes you associate that with the religion, when really that's not part of the religion itself, and it's just sort of, again, sort of like a marketing gimmick. So those are all my thoughts on the subject. If I'm totally wrong and saying dumb stuff, tell me in the comments. This is just my opinion. I haven't really put this out to anyone, which I usually do in my videos, so I apologize if this was a colossal waste of time for you. But that's what I was thinking of. Thank you for watching. See you later.